Hey guys, it's Bren, and today I wanted to talk about being a writer, or maybe I should say formally being a writer. And I think that this video could be relatable to anybody who has a hobby that they used to be really, really passionate about, and then they don't really maybe do it anymore, but other people expect that they do or think that they should or whatever. That's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. So I will give you a little bit of background on me and my writing. I don't really even know how to put that. I was going to say like career, but it was never too much of a career for me. So I grew up in a creative household. My dad writes, but he writes just kind of for himself and like family members. He does write novels, but he doesn't really publish them or anything. But I definitely have inherited that. And when I was very young, I started writing little novels, just like, chapter 1 would be like 1 page, that kind of thing. So not really novel length, but I would just fill up notepads. And then as I got into junior high, I would fill up spiral notebooks, and I had characters in a series, and I would just write about like girls my age going through random things. I was a big fan of like Sweet Valley High and the Babysitters Club, so I was trying to kind of emulate that, I think. And I had one of my first like big novels was called Cheese, Ben, and Problems. And my friend Cassie, who has been my friend since kindergarten, and she used to read those. We're still friends. We still talk about Cheese, Ben, and Problems sometimes. And then, I tried to, I wanted to do that as a career. I wanted to just be a writer, but everybody told me, hey, you can't rely on that. You're not going to be the next great American novelist. Probably that's like wanting to be a rock star or something. So, everyone told me you have to go into journalism or you have to teach English. And at the time, I didn't think that I wanted to teach, which is kind of funny because I do now. But, I thought about journalism. I was on the high school newspaper and all of that. And then when I had to apply to college, I applied as a journalism major, but I actually changed my major before I even started. I changed it at orientation. I wasn't sure that felt like the right path either. I don't know. And then I went through school. I ended up being a psychology major just because that was something that, I loved the class. I had a great teacher. I thought that I wanted to go on and get a master's in like marriage and family therapy or something to that effect. But by the time I got to the end of my college career, like senior year-ish, or time to pick classes for senior year anyway, I was starting to question that choice as well. Really, and now I work with a lot of college students, and I think it's so horrible to have to pick what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're like 20. I mean, it's so much pressure. But yeah, that's where I was. And I was just flipping through the course catalog, and I saw all these classes in the English department for things like technical writing, technical editing, copywriting. And I was like, that seems like something that I could really do. That seems like something that I would enjoy. And I was almost kind of mad because I had to discover it on my own. Whereas throughout college, I had been to career counselors and, academic advisors and all these people, and none of them brought that up to me, that you can be a writer in for a business or in that capacity, and I just didn't realize. So I decided to declare a minor in English my senior year. That was pretty much all I worked on, was finishing that minor. My psych was mostly done. And so I ended up doing an internship too in writing, where I got to do copywriting and editing. And I also learned a lot of graphic design programs because I was just editing brochures and things like that. And because of that, I got a job in marketing after college. And I worked in marketing for about 4 years. To tell you the truth, I ended up doing more graphic design than I did writing. I started in kind of a salesy role, and I got to write some sales letters and things like that. But for the most part, I was just really good at the design part. I've always, been kind of an art person too, but I just didn't ever think about pursuing that as a career. And I just sort of fell into being really good at the design aspect and getting moved to the graphic design department at that job, and just kind of working as a graphic designer for a while. And then I got another job at a smaller company where I had to wear many different hats. And so I was doing design for them, but I was also writing, and it was a recruiting firm, and I was writing all the job descriptions and everything. So I've had an element of writing in my life always, but I wasn't writing fiction very much at that point. And then I kind of got back into it. I kind of got back into writing fiction, and I wrote this novel. It was technically a novel of novel length because now I was in my 20s, so I could actually do that. And I remember sending off some query letters to agents, and it would have been probably 2007, so it was easier, still hard, but easier then to publish, whereas now nobody publishes new authors now at all, and that's why so many people self-publish. But I remember getting a bite. Like, I got a bite for a full request on the manuscript from this one random agent, and then, they ultimately turned it down. But, it was something, and I was at the same exact time really fed up with my career. It wasn't that I didn't love graphic design. I really did. I loved what I did. I hated corporate politics. I worked for a couple of really political companies, and I still always think back and think, like, if I had worked for a better company with better people or less politics, I guess you could say, I might still be doing that. But I wanted to go back to academia. I felt really at home there. I really liked that. And so I decided to go to grad school, but I didn't know what for. And I was still trying to decide between something in counseling or maybe English. And honestly, the reason that I chose English was really two. One was that I had just written this novel and I kind of wanted to continue with writing, but also I felt like I had good people that could write me letters of recommendation for English, whereas I didn't, because I had worked really closely with all my English professors senior year, and I didn't really know who I would ask for those letters that you need for grad school for a counseling type of program. In hindsight, I probably could have asked anyone, but I felt more comfortable asking my English professors for letters for an English graduate program, and I got into one of the best, UIC in Chicago. They're one of the only, there's only 20 universities that have a PhD in creative writing, and I wasn't going for the PhD, I was going for the master's program, but still, very highly ranked, great program. Only 15% of applicants get in. Writing sample is part of your admission and everything. So I was really proud of myself that I did get into that program, and not only that, I nailed down an assistantship, which was just a matter of me constantly calling them every day and badgering them to give me an assistantship. And so that was great because I was able to work on my writing, but I will say it was also terrifying because I was in a lot of creative writing workshops with the PhD students, and everyone in graduate school is an extremely serious, dark literary writer. And if you go in there trying to write chick lit or genre fiction, like romance or something, they're going to tear you apart. And that is what happened to me. I went in there with my little sort of chick litty type of love story thing, and they all thought it was a joke. They thought after the first couple of chapters that surely the guy was going to murder the girl or something, because why would I be in graduate school if I wanted to write genre fiction, right? And I went home crying so many nights, and I developed a very thick skin very quickly, much thicker skin than I ever had to have working in design, although you have to have a thick skin in design too. But it did make me a better writer. It certainly did. I learned a lot, and I became almost like a darker writer. But I turned to writing more literary stuff, which I think is better. It's also harder to sell and publish, though. So it was a double-edged sword, but I learned a lot. I really did learn a lot, and it made me a better writer. And I wrote another novel while I was in grad school, which was my graduate school thesis, and it was, it was more compelling, and it was more thought out, and I think it was better written, and I still think it's, pretty good, because it's the kind of thing that I would like to read, but just like my dad, I've just had, my friends read it and stuff, and I think I went through, the query process a little bit with it, but you just get kind of burnt out. It's like online dating. It's you can only do it so much, and then you're just screw it, I don't care anymore, this is too much work. I've also thought about publishing it because, self-publishing it on Amazon, which is super easy. I mean, you can publish a book on Amazon in 30 minutes or less. All you need is cover art. That's the hardest part. And I used to be a graphic designer, so I could throw that together. But I never have. I've talked to my dad about him doing that too with his stuff, and we've talked about it, but I just haven't. I don't know. I feel like I need to get my hands on it and I need to edit it more, but I've sort of fallen away from that. So I mentioned that I had an assistantship in grad school, and that was being a TA and teaching, and I actually realized that I loved teaching, which I didn't think that I would, but teaching college students really was great for me. I don't know, I've never really wanted to teach high school where you have to deal with parents more and kids that don't want to be in your class and things like that. I really love college students, though. You still have a little bit of dealing with parents and a little bit of dealing with people that don't want to be in your class, but you can treat them like adults, so it's nice. And I really latched on to teaching, and that's why I went on to do that for so long. And now I still teach on the side, but my main job, I work in admissions basically, but I help students, I counsel them on transitioning to the university. So I kind of have fallen randomly into this counseling role as well. I feel like my career, instead of just kind of going on an upward trajectory like many people's, my career is this Like, it's all over the place, back and forth, but it's kind of exciting, and I kind of like that, which I might have mentioned in my Q&A on my other channel at one point. I think I remember doing this on camera before, but you know, that's kind of how it's worked out for me. But I've stopped writing. I just, you know, since I got out of grad school, I haven't been motivated to do it. Now, I've never stopped writing completely. I'm never going to do that. Writing is how I cope. It's how I communicate best. And so if I have something to say to somebody, I'm going to say it best probably in a long, thought-out text message. If I go through a breakup, I usually end up writing a letter. And no, hopefully I never actually sent that letter, but that's my best therapy, you know? And so occasionally I just will write things out. You know, I still have that in me, but I'm not writing fiction anymore. And I have to deal with people asking me about it all the time because that's where my background is, and people know that I used to do that. And I have friends who have read my stuff that keep asking for more stuff. But for me, I just hate that conversation. I have well-intending friends that, like, if I'm like sad or depressed or something, they'll be like, you should write, you should get back into writing. But it's not just something that I can just do, you know? And when I was writing a lot, even sometimes you would get writer's block, but I never worried about that. I never stressed because I knew that I would be in the mood again at some point. And then I just kind of fell into it, and I never got in the mood or fell out of it. And I never got in the mood again to write. So I don't really know what to do with that, but I hate it when people tell me to write because it's like, I will write if I want to write, but I don't feel like writing, so I'm not going to. And then the other day, so for my job, doing my like admissions work, I have to have like a web profile within the college's internal website about me, and it has on there what my degree is and everything. And I was at this event, and it was kind of a slow event. There weren't a lot of students to talk to, but there was someone else who worked at the university who had seen my profile, and he also is a writer, but he's like really in it right now, and he writes a lot of fiction, and he goes to like workshops and stuff. So he wanted to talk to me about writing, and I just felt like an imposter, kind of. I felt like he was a really nice guy, and he wanted to talk about writing, and you would think that I would be really excited about that, but like, I don't really write anymore. And then he kept saying, if you have anything you want to send me, you know, and I knew that he wanted me to be like, oh yeah, you know, mutually too, you send me your stuff, we'll be writing buddies. And I was just, I just like kind of politely turned him down. Like, I don't know what to say to that. But why don't I write anymore? So this is the internal question. I don't have any tattoos, but I used to want to get a tattoo on my wrist that says scripter, which is the Latin word for writer and author. And it's like, you know, I used to be so in it. I spent 2 years of my life completely absorbed in it, and then went on to continue to do it. And I'm good at it. I'm a good writer. People ask me to do miscellaneous writing jobs for them, and I still kind of do a little bit of, I guess you could say, consulting and stuff too. And obviously I'm a grammar nerd because I teach writing. And I have these students all the time who, they're awesome writers, or they want to be writers, and they talk to me about declaring a major in English. And I always, like, it should be really exciting, but I also kind of have to be like, be prepared to be poor if that's what you want to do. It's hard. It's tough. Maybe you should have a backup plan. And then I turn into that parent that doesn't believe in their dream, you know, but, oh, it's just so tough. So why don't I write anymore? You know, why do I have no urge right now to sit down and come up with characters and absorb myself in this other world? I used to be so into it, and it was a great thing. I don't know why. And I don't really know how to end this video. But I am curious if there's anybody else out there who has a similar situation. It could be writing, or it could be anything else. Anything that like you used to be really into and you were good at it, and you're still good at it, but you're just not, you've kind of moved on from that. And I don't know if this is a case of me giving up my dreams because, you know, I never was able to get published. So I never tried that hard though. Honestly, I didn't. But you know, was it just something where like other things in life took over? So it's not really something that I'm motivated to do anymore. I don't know. I don't know what it is, and I wish that I could still call myself a writer, but I'm not going to force myself to do it either, so it's kind of weird. But anyway, video's long enough now, but just curious if there's anybody else out there in a similar situation. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.